We are live. Hi.
Wow.
Okay. Well, welcome to Mom Cave Live, where we may have lost our minds, but we haven't lost our senses of humor. I'm Jen. It's been a few weeks because it's summer and kids are not in school, and it's insane chaos at my house. Um, but I'm happy to be back, and we are also broadcasting on Instagram, sort of, kind of live. Instagram people will get the edited version later. So we have a very, very exciting guest this time. Somebody I've been wanting to talk to for a while.
Oh,
And yeah, this is Dr. Frieda Birnbaum, PhD. You might be the first PhD to ever be on Mom Cave Live, Dr.
really?
Frieda.
See that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're an
Yeah,
expert in many things.
I
But
try.
yeah, the most important reason that we have Dr. Frieda here today is she has the distinction of being the oldest woman to ever have had twins in the United States.
I am that old. Can you believe that? Amazing.
I
I'm the old lady.
you now we're all it's all relative. First of all, I feel very
Yeah,
much like an old lady right now.
you don't look
Um,
it.
Thank you. You're very kind. But like I said, it's all relative. And I thought it would be interesting to talk to you because you've had this amazing experience, but also because so many of the people who follow along here on Mom Cave are having their first child or have had their first child and might have been shocked and horrified when they noticed on their medical records that the doctors wrote geriatric pregnancy. Um, I certainly wasn't warned that it was going to be called a geriatric pregnancy. Yeah. Um, so as a doctor, Dr. Frieda, what makes it a geriatric pregnancy?
Well, that name is very offsetting.
It
You know,
is.
let's talk about age for a minute because it's a huge factor with women today. When they were writing about me or on these shows all over the place. Somebody actually came from Germany to interview me, and I opened the door, and he says to me, "Where's the old lady?" And I said to him, "I guess I'm the old lady. That's me."
Great.
So, it's a perception, and I was quoted in Newsweek as saying that ageism needs to be redefined because society has to catch up with what age means today. And as women tell the truth about their age, then we'll have a better concept of what age is. The world actually, I had messages from around the world, was shocked at my age, but I was really more shocked at how the world saw my age because I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you, and get ready for this one. I mean, 60 was more exciting than ever in my time. I had
Wow.
the feeling of uh, passion uh, and lust for life at 60 that I didn't have before.
Wow.
So who's to say what that's supposed to mean? And we're 15 minutes, 15 years into that phase of 60. My boys that just helped me with this show because I'm horrible with this
Your
stuff.
your tech support, of
My
course, is
tech
your
support,
teenage
I woke
son.
him up at 11, but that's okay. And he came
Mhm.
down and helped me. But here I am 15 years later, and I'm still the oldest. And, you know, the life that you live has to be genuine to who you are. Now, of course, we have to talk about things in practical terms, living longer, having uh, not patients, those are my patients, but having relatives
Mhm.
or parents that lived longer. That's You
Mhm.
have to take that into consideration. So you have to be there for your children into adulthood. That's a big thing. And I'm going to say a few things and I'll let you ask me questions. But you
Sure.
know what I did get around the world was the question was, I don't feel I'm too old anymore to have a new relationship. I don't feel I'm too old anymore to move, to have a new career, or to feel young. And I think that's the message I gave. I wasn't going to tell my age. Most women over 50 do not tell their age with
Yeah.
their pregnancies. But then again, and then I'll let you talk, the number 6 0
Mhm.
hit a nerve. Now, if I was 55, 57, people, Joan London, twice twins at the end of her 50s. So, yes, that's what really made the difference. And then I went to in vitro is how I did this, and
Mm-hmm.
I was a couple of months too old for, and I started at 55, by the way, too old for them. The end line was 55. So there you go again. Age is changing as we're talking. And you're going to ask me, people are getting married later and having children later, and what age means later. My mother at 40 had a miscarriage on purpose because she was an old lady at that time. So
Mm.
age is constantly changing. Talk, because I'll talk forever. Go.
I love you. I love it because I don't have to ask you so many questions because you're answering
Oh,
everything. That's great. So yeah, like I also feel that the human body hasn't quite caught up with what the human mind is capable of, insofar as like we, everybody might wait longer to have kids now because we have go to college and have a career, and then everything's pushed, but our bodies are still becoming fertile at 12 years old and starting to become less fertile when we're 30. And so if you're ready to have kids and you're 55 and 60, maybe you're going to have trouble. And that's just like the sad reality of being a female at
that's true.
this time.
I had the advantage of having my eggs frozen.
Okay, great.
But there are different ways you can do this. They have this nuclear type of experience or whatever that they call it, where you can actually take your own egg cells, put it in the middle, and then the nucleus is somebody else's egg that's
Wow.
more vital. So that's some of the latest things that are going on. So there are ways you could still have your own child
Uh-huh.
and to carry your own child. Yes. So as we go on, women are capable of having their own children as well.
How did you have the foresight to know you should freeze your eggs?
I had a child at 53,
Okay, great.
and I froze my eggs at that time.
Okay.
And also, uh, the fact that women are freezing their eggs by 35
Mm-hmm.
is the age that
Right. They suggest.
but there are women who are freezing their eggs into their 40s.
Right.
And it's also something that works. Now, a frozen egg separate is different than a fertilized egg, a fertile egg, which means
Right.
that the male and female are donate equally to this procedure, and that's when it does become much more viable. So, for your listeners to know, there's so many technical ways of doing it, and then again, you can have a donor. You can have a donor sperm. You choose. I feel, I mean, although my husband was involved in this, you get to pick, you know, the perfect guy that you would like to have children with. His height, his looks, his intelligence, his character traits, perfect. And so, what's the difference as far as I'm concerned? But you don't have the biological parent, but you do have somebody that you feel is important to you, or kindness, or whatever that is. So there's so many different variations on this theme that makes it your child. But even with adoption, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes your child.
Of course.
You're the
Yeah.
one that's raising and experiencing the life of this child.
Yeah. And did you consider adoption?
I did, and I went through the process of adoption,
Yeah.
feeling that why not help a child that's in need. And we went through it. It was a very difficult, timely situation,
Mm-hmm.
and with all that, we weren't getting the progress we were looking for. So we said, we're not going anywhere with this. And what's also interesting is that, I've been interviewed 2020. Oprah show called me, everybody, but nobody asked for my husband, and he's the one that wanted more children. And the people always feel it's the woman. So really, things have changed, and men are more involved with family, and being
Definitely.
experiencing nurturing and all that stuff. So that's
Yeah.
really the truth. That's really what happened.
Did you
Yeah.
experience ageism in the adoption process too?
Um, it's interesting because when they bring a social worker to your
Mm-hmm.
home, and I'm sitting there watching her expression, because I feel people should be horrified or fall over and say, "Are you kidding me? Forget about it. It's over." And she's sitting there composed, and I'm thinking, is she a great actress or what is
Yeah,
this
she's a
all about?
poker face.
Yeah, right. But I feel that adoption is something that's really necessary. And when people meet me, you know, I started a process of wanting my 50 when I was 53, when I was
Hmm.
45. And I went to the doctor and I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but whatever. So I went to the doctor. You're great. I talk about anything.
Right.
So I went to the doctor and I said to him, "Are you too old? Are you too old? No. Am I too old?" So he said to me, "Well, do you feel young?" And I said, "No, my age." He said, "No. If you have the energy,
Uh-huh.
if you feel that you can go ahead and take care of these children appropriately, um, and you know what to expect." And the answer was yes. So I felt I was too old and I wanted children. But then when people would know me, they would see I was absolutely not too old. And what's
Hmm.
interesting, when I went to see my children in elementary school, the mothers, as you were saying, were older.
Yeah.
They were in their 40s or 50s with kids. So I didn't really feel that I fit in either. So,
Hmm.
it does depend on the individual person, who you are, and how you look at life. I mean, I'm in the media now, not because of the birth of these kids, because most people don't even know about it, and I don't even talk about it. And I started my media as being a media psychologist when I was 60. I mean, right after I had the children. So it does depend on
Wow.
your I what your energy and what your motivation and what your needs are in life. So at 60, with my book, Life Begins at 60, but life began in other ways for me at 60 that wouldn't have before.
Speaking of
Confidence
your book, I'm
also.
going to push it to the comments so everyone can see. There'll be a link. I hope it's working. There'll be a link, and you can see. There you go. There's the book. Life Begins at 60, a new view on motherhood, marriage, and reinventing ourselves. And hopefully, you'll be able to find that in the comments. If it's not going now, I will put it there after. So you're right. We didn't talk about exactly what we were going to talk about. So this is
Oh,
very
that's good.
unstructured and casual.
Yeah,
So
for
you gave
sure.
me an idea, which is you said, well, if you feel like you can, if you feel like you have the energy, you seem to have a ton of energy. And that's something I never feel like I have enough of. Do you have any secrets?
I just washed the floor before we went on because I couldn't get you on and I had to get my son up and all that stuff. But I find that I like washing the floors, and I find that really, but I find that the more you use,
Mm-hmm.
the more it gives you this kind of, if you sit too long, you
Yeah.
can't get up after a while.
Yep.
So that's really what it's all about, to be able to be mainstream with having activities. That's what gives me a high, to be able to write a book, to be able to go on a show, to be able to give a speech. And sometimes I say to myself, if they're picking me up early in the morning to talk about, I'm talking about, you know, kids that are aggressive, and the media and TV and movies, does that go ahead and does that promote aggression in children? And I get up in the morning and a car picks me up and I say, "What the hell am I doing this for? Who needs this? Why am I
Why am I up
having to
at this
remember?
hour?
Why?" And but then when I come back, I'm on such a high.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a wonderful feeling. So when people say to you, "You did it already. You got your PhD. You got this award-winning speech. You did your books. You did. What more do you want?" I want more. I
More.
don't feel like I did it. I don't feel like I have enough. I want to give a message. I want to, I also have a podcast about showcasing people
Mm-hmm.
who have come from discrimination and racism, because that's a big thing to me, and
Okay.
how they achieved their successes, like from the hood to the CEO, whatever those titles are. Because to me, to be able to make progress, aren't you glad you asked this? To be able to make
Yeah.
progress and to contribute, is what really gives life its full meaning. And
Yeah.
that's really, so your listeners out there, if you think you have too much, do more. They're going to,
I know. I know. Well, I usually do feel like I have too much. And that's something that I always struggle with, but it's a great parallel with parenting that you just said. It's like it feel in the moment you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I getting up at 3 a.m. to go on television? Why am I waking up in the middle of the night with this baby? But then you get such a high out of it. You get so much back that it gives you that like oomph to go on and do
it's
more.
so unconditional. Sometimes if I'm walking with my boys who are almost 6 feet now, and I see a woman with a little baby, or in the park, I saw a man with a little baby crying away, and he looked upset and everything. I did actually go up to him and say to him, don't worry, these are fleeting moments. Believe it or not, it shall pass, and they'll become like this. It was only yesterday. And he looked at me like quizzically a little bit, like, lady, get off my back kind of deal. But one day he'll be feeling and seeing that, because these moments of saying, oh my God, if I could just sleep, when is that going to come? It does come.
Yeah.
And that's why they have the word empty nest syndrome, because that energy afterwards is lacking. That's not why you should have children, of course. But I am saying to you that this unconditional gratefulness, love, is an experience to have. It's part of life, that to be tortured in the middle of the night is part
Right.
of life.
To be
You have to have,
tortured is part of love, and
that's
it's all
right.
worth it.
It's
Yeah,
all worth it. When you're tortured, remember this,
it
for
is all
sure.
worth it. I know.
Yeah, it is.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about so we talked about the getting pregnant part, but being pregnant as a 60-year-old, how was that? Were you worried about things that could go wrong? Did you have to do anything special?
I was shocked. I was really shocked. All my pregnancies, I always had a high. I hate to say this to you because I know your program a little bit, but I had a high. The endorphins and all the was like shooting out of me.
That's great.
I was a crazy lady happy. And
Oh
I
wow.
remember once, yeah, I remember one, everyone's different. And I remember I was in the supermarket, and I didn't want to lift a gallon of milk,
Mm-hmm.
and I was embarrassed to tell the lady. So she said to me, the cashier, and
Mm-hmm.
she said to me, and this is when I was older with the twins, she said to me, honey, are you pregnant? Let me lift that for you. And I was so insulted and so embarrassed. So, yes, and she wasn't shocked. So, it's interesting that you're right. Women are having children later. And I always looked a little younger than my age. So maybe she thought I was 50, or who knows, whatever it was. But women are women, yeah, are getting pregnant later.
Right.
And to go on to that segment, why
Mm-hmm.
are people having children later? Why is that the case? Because it's becoming more of the norm. And the reality is that women are getting more educated, and they have careers now, and they're getting married later.
Mm-hmm.
So with all that, it makes sense to be able to develop who you are as a person first. Because as you know, when you're home and you're saying, this is what I strived for, to
Yeah.
talk to my 2-year-old. So you have that to come back to uh, eventually. So that's very important. And what I did was I stayed home, and when my kids went to school, I had two sets. So it's always children first or career first, which one
Mm-hmm.
won. But the first set was that I had my children, when they went back to school, I went back to school. And then I did it virtual, so I wouldn't have to physically be away. And I was accepted to Columbia University for my graduate school in psychology, which was an honor and impossible to get into. But I quit from my children. So
Mm.
women have this dilemma that
Yeah.
men don't have. I mean, women will move for a man if he has a changing career. But I didn't feel my husband was doing the same kind of job I would be doing. So we do have this conflict back and forth. And now, as I'm older, and or the oldest, and I had these kids, I had the luxury of not feeling that I was missing out on life. I
Hmm.
already had my career. I was financially set. And most of all, more than the money, was the time, because time is your biggest asset. I had the time to enjoy my children. And with everything, with any phase you are in your life, having children, the second part is being able to enjoy each other, because
Mm.
then what is it all about if you're not with them? So you have to really rethink the way you're structuring your life. But
Yeah.
if you have to go to work to make the money, you shouldn't feel guilty, because my research has shown that those are the guiltiest women who have
Hmm.
to work. And it's interesting because the women who have, I didn't know I was going to talk about this either, but the women who have, I don't know where I'm going with this, but the women who have
Okay.
nannies are the
Yeah.
least guilty. They're going out, they're
Hmm.
exercising, they're meeting their friends for lunch, kids that come home, the nannies are there. So it's all a perspective, but
Yeah.
it's the balance in life, and the love, and the unconditional relationship you have with each other that children really do pick up on.
Yeah, yeah. The living in the moment is something I struggle with all the time, because before you know it, this moment is so past and you're like, "Oh my
No,
God, I forgot about when they were that little, but I was so busy trying to make the money and keep the house clean and do all these other things that I wish I had spent more time just being."
yes,
Um,
yes. It's hard to remember that, but it's also something uh, that's a wonderful feeling, because when you look forward, you'll know that you did all the right things, and it's going to show in the children that you're raising. That's the reward that you'll have in the long run. So it's a
well,
wonderful thing.
the fact that you had your son setting up and being your tech person for this interview just
See
goes to
that?
show. See, he's helpful. He's proud of his mom, and it's worth it. I could talk to you forever, but it's been like 20 minutes. We should do this again, and everyone
Yes.
should check out your book, Life Begins at 60, and your podcast. Where can they find? What's your website, Dr. Frida?
So it's Dr. Frieda, Frieda, .com. Very simple. People can contact me if they want to. But you're a delight. I just want to tell you, we spoke
Hey,
nothing about what we were going to talk about,
I
just for your
know.
listeners. And you are just a delight, because you're so easy and you go. I don't know if you're this way with everybody, but you just went with what I was saying. By the way, I thought it was long, this. I'm sorry I took up a lot of time talking about
No
other stuff.
worries.
So I didn't realize it, because I knew you had other things. But yes, you are very, very good at what you
Oh,
do, for
wow. Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
Mom Cave is just sort of the virtual place for moms to hang out and talk and be casual
Yeah, it's
and
wonderful they
find
have
out
that
what we want to
resource.
know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank you
it's
so
great that they
much.
have that.
Check out
Love you.
Dr. Frida, every